What is going on, everyone? I know my hair is a little crazy looking, but it's fitting because I am doing one of my lists again. That's right, everyone. I am doing David Lynch's films. I'm ranking his films from worst to best. And ironically, he's done 10 films, which is kind of funny to me because I've done David Fincher's films, Christopher Nolan films, and Tarantino films, and all of them usually have 8 to 10 films, so it's just kind of ironic that David Lynch has done 10. So, for those of you that don't know, I've been doing these lists for a little bit now, and I love doing them. And I rank them from worst to best. And with David Lynch, it's going to be from 10 to 1 being the best of his. So let's start off the list with number 10, and that is Dune. Dune is one of his first films, and it was a major flop at the box office, and for good reasons. It wasn't a good film. This is adapted from a book that is very ambitious. My girlfriend actually read it, and she described it as Game of Thrones science fiction style. And it makes sense because it just seems like a lot was going on, but at the same time, you didn't really know what was going on. And it wasn't like, oh, it wasn't, a lot was going on, but you didn't understand what was going on and it was intended. It just kind of felt like it was not truly focused in its intentions. And I don't know, I think maybe it was just because David Lynch wasn't really happy with the film itself. I mean, this is the few films of his that he actually refuses to talk about in any interview. So that could be why. So, and my number 9 is Wild at Heart. Wild at Heart stars Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern, and it's a alright film. I don't love it. I personally think it's just alright. But the acting is really good, and it is enjoyable enough seeing Nicolas Cage in a role where he, just goes out of jail. It's a good film in that aspect. I mean, because Nicolas Cage is reeled in. He doesn't have his Nicolas Cage freakouts the way he usually does. So in that aspect, it is a good film. But overall, I think it's just an alright film. My number 8 now is The Straight Story. Now, David Lynch doing a G-rated family film. It works, though. I'm not going to lie. This film is actually enjoyable. Sure, it's slow, but it has that kind of pacing that really makes you feel like you know exactly how this main character feels. Like, this main character, he's just driving a tractor and he's, like, trying to get to a destination. It's very simple, but, like, at the same time, it just gives you a lot of his viewpoint. And I don't know, it's just something about it is enjoyable. But again, it's a film that I could only see myself watching once. Like, I'm not saying, hey, I'm going to rewatch this again. I'm like, it's all right. I can't see myself watching it again. And number 7 is, it's another all right film. It's a shame, too, because it is a prequel to the TV show Twin Peaks, and that is Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. This film I thought was just alright. I thought it was trying a little too hard with shock value. I don't think it fully capitalized on the TV show. And if you want to see a good continuation of Twin Peaks, I would definitely recommend Twin Peaks the 3rd season, which is technically Twin Peaks The Return. That is a great continuation. But unfortunately, this prequel, it felt very okay. It didn't feel needed. Because I just kind of felt like the series as its whole, you got everything you needed to know about Laura. Like, you understand all of that, about Laura Palmer. And so that's why it's just kind of annoying that they did this, because it does indeed feel kind of like a gimmicky cash grab. But, it's not a bad film. Number 6 is actually David Lynch's last film that he ever made. It was Inland Empire. Inland Empire also stars Laura Dern, who, if you haven't figured out by now, he likes Laura Dern. And for good reason. She's a good actress. And she's good in this. Justin Theroux is in this too. And this is a film that I just feel as though it's out there. And I love films that are out there. But I need to rewatch it because it's 3 hours of not knowing what's going on. Like, at all. I still don't really know what the bunnies meant. For those of you that have seen Inland Empire, fill me in on the comment section down below what it means. Again, I need to rewatch it because I haven't seen this film in like 3 years. And I remember when I was watching this, it was right before work. And I remember going into work so confused. So it wasn't even like I was able to sit down and, let it sink in. So I don't know. Again, I'm planning to rewatch this film. I think it's a good film. But, there are obviously 5 other films I thought were better. My number 5 is The Elephant Man, which, oh my goodness, Anthony Hopkins is so good in this film. And this film was shot in black and white, and it's interesting because you really do feel as though it's perfect with them shooting in black and white. You really get this feeling as though this film is like a time capsule that you're just uncovering because it just, I don't know, it just feels so authentic with what it's trying to achieve. And it's also just interesting because, again, David Lynch, he's using this subject matter, but with very delicate hands. And it's really interesting to see him do this. I thought his directing for this film was really good. I thought the performances were top notch. The cinematography was top notch. It's just an overall good film. It's just not exactly a film that you want to watch if you want to be all cheerful. It's a downer of a film for sure, but it is a good film. My number 4 is where the top tier David Lynch films come out. These are the films that when people think of David Lynch, these are the films that people think of. And for good reasons, because they're obviously in my top 4. Let's kick it off with number 4, which is, I'll be honest, a very hard film to find, unfortunately. And that's Lost Highway. This is a film, and you'll notice these 4 I'll get deeper into, because the other ones I'm just like, they're alright, or this. My goodness, number 4 was a film that I tried watching the first time. I got like 30 minutes in, and I was like, you know what, I'll finish this some other time. I then sat down to watch this, and I watched it all the way through. And about halfway, I was like, this is solid, but I don't know. And then the second half happened, and my goodness, it made the film for me. And it's one of those things where I want to rewatch it too now, because it's like one of those films where I feel like because you know the second half with everything that happens, it makes the journey well worth it, and it makes the film feel more even. But my goodness, that second half really hit home for me. I loved it. The first half, it was good, but that second half, holy cow. Number 3 is the film that, whoo, I don't think really anyone knows what this film's about, other than what it means to be a dad. But Eraserhead. This is a film about a man who, has a mutant baby and must take care of him. Oh my goodness, this is such an interesting film. It's very fascinating. Also shot in black and white, similar to The Elephant Man. But it's so fascinating because for 85 minutes, you are experiencing such vivid imagery that you will never forget. The type of imagery that it's both nightmare-inducing, but also just gels with you and sits with you, and you don't necessarily know what it all means on one viewing, but you know you've witnessed something special. And I feel as though that's David Lynch in a nutshell. His films, upon first viewing, you're like, I don't know what I just saw, but gosh darn it, it was something special. It's just something about him, his directing style. And I'll get into it at the very end of my review, but he just knows what he's doing. And I'm very excited to rewatch Eraserhead. I really like this movie. Number 2 is, and this is where a lot of people have been debating about what is number 1 and number 2 is. And I'll be honest, I had a debate too, because while my number 3, 4, and 5 were all 4.5 out of 5 stars, and then if you're keeping up, my number 6 was a 4 out of 5. My number 7 was like 3 out of 5. Actually, no, 3.5 out of 5. Number 8, 3.5 out of 5, and then Wild at Heart 3.5, and then Dune I gave it like 3 out of 5. My number 1 and 2 both get 5 out of 5s, and my number 2 is a film that I go back and forth, but at the same time, I then think about it. I'm like, number 2 goes to Blue Velvet. This film is incredible. Simply put, this is, like this person said, the Rolling Stone, it's an American masterpiece. I remember when I worked at Sunoco, I remember this film being on Netflix. I was like, I need to watch it. I need to watch it because I'm trying to watch all of this guy David Lynch's films. Because, at that point, I just got done watching the TV show Twin Peaks. And I was doing the graveyard shift. And I was like, I need to stay up because I wanted to do an all-nighter. So it was like, I don't know. I think it was 10 o'clock and I had to get ready for the shift that was going to be at 11. And I was watching this film and it kept me up, and I went into work just thinking about this film constantly because this film really hits you. It is hard to watch for sure, but its messages, its themes, its pacing, its acting. Oh my goodness, Frank Booth is one of the all-time best villains. Kyle MacLachlan is incredible. This is just a film that overall, everything about it works. And the score, Oh my goodness. It is a masterpiece. But there's a film that, whilst at the same time is equally a 5 out of 5, it's a film that it's in my top 10. And it's a film that it changed my view on films. One of the films that had an influence on me, because I will never forget this film, because my teacher in college recommended this film. First year in college, freshman year, he recommended this movie to me because he was like, "Oh, have you seen this movie?" And I was like, "No, I haven't even heard of it." He's like, Chad, he's like, "You need to watch this." He's like, "If you consider yourself a movie buff, you have to watch this." So that very day, I went home, put this movie on a site, and blown away. Simply blown away. But it took me multiple viewings to fully appreciate this film. And every time it gets better and better. And that is Mulholland Drive. This film, if you consider yourself a film critic, if you consider yourself a film buff, a cinephile, just someone that wants to be in the industry, watch Mulholland Drive. This is such a fantastic film. Words can't describe it, because when you first see this film, you have no clue what's going on. And I'm gonna explain David Lynch's style in a second, but this film, you don't know what you're going to be getting yourself into, because it is awesome. It's such a fantastic film. Hands down, his best film, to me at least. But David Lynch's films, I always talk about the director's styles at the end of my reviews. And I'm going to say this. David Lynch's style is that he shows images that will evoke emotions, will make you think about something. And he does this because he wants you to think. He wants you to be able to interpret stuff for yourself. And I know a lot of people can say, "Oh, that's kind of pretentious," but it's not, because he trusts you. You know, he's not one of those directors that will do something and then talk about it afterwards, saying this means this or this or this. No, he wants you to think. He wants you to genuinely come to your own conclusions, because the fact of the matter is, my list I just named, it's subjective, you know, and every scene that he shows is subjective. You know, my interpretation of Mulholland Drive, what that finale in that film meant, could be different from yours. And that's the great thing about his films. They are up to interpretation, and it's done intentionally because he just has such a way behind the camera. And his scores in his films, the way they're shot, the sound design, the acting, they're all top notch. And again, some of his films I think are just okay, but again, when you get to that number 5 to number 1, it's some of the best filmmaking you'll see, hands down. So those are my films, you know, listed for, you know, David Lynch, obviously worst to best. Guys, where do you rank his films? You know, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below with where you would rank David Lynch's films. Again, comment section down below. Also, are there a certain director or two that you might want me to review? I'm thinking about doing Wes Anderson next. Steven Spielberg is also going to be on there, which, not going to lie, that video is going to be like 45 minutes long, because, my goodness, Steven Spielberg has done a lot of films. But I'm looking to do Wes Anderson, Steven Spielberg. Any other directors you guys want me to do, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, don't forget the subscription, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys later.